Fidel 101.
Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Dell. If you're new to this channel, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. But today I'm going to give a brief synopsis on how monotheistic theological context works in conjunction with the mythology of the Nephilim that's connected to the apex of the fourth turning that operates on the second limb of a cycle, which is the foundation of the clock of destiny, which is also the personification of the cosmic clock that operates on the cosmic pendulum of karma that dismantles the metatronic overlay of the material plane that governs the financial debt clock system. So what you got to understand is that the clock of destiny is basically the activation of the seven thunders through the manifestations of nature to cast judgment on the planet, right? So I'm going to show you some visual aids about everything that I'm talking about. Because what you got to understand is that 2024 is the symbology of the year 8, and the year 8 is basically the return of karma, to where energy expands and returns to itself, right? Meaning that what goes around comes around, which is also facilitated by the cosmic clock, right? So what you're looking at is everything has to go back into a form of 0-point energy. 0-point energy, meaning that, like I said, energy expands through regeneration, by impact, by impulse, by acceleration and deceleration, based upon the electromagnetic domination and emotion that's being facilitated by the three-dimensional world merging in with certain dimensions on the planet. So with that being said, everything has to go through a planetary reset. So when you see this right here, it says no state of emotion ever began or ever ended. So like I said, energy expands and returns to itself. So you're going through a regeneration process from a degeneration process that was facilitated by the lunar cycle, right? Because the cosmic clock is basically the foundation of the master key civilization. So when you're looking at these clocks, when you're looking at the QA9, you got the world is over. All this is basically a metaphysical codex that's acclimated to their system. So the doomsday clock, when it says right here, it is 90 seconds till midnight. All this is being facilitated by the inception of time, right? So when you're talking about the inception of time, you're talking about through the 7 principles of the Moorish science. When you're talking about plant, animal, protoplast, man, mankind, cherub, and the seraphim. So these inception points is connected to the 24,000 year purification periods, where you have the inception of the prokaryotes, and then you have the eukaryotes, and you have the multicellular nuclei, which created certain animals and plants and things of that nature when you're talking about creation, right? Which started in a sun cycle. So when you had the lunar cycle, when you're talking about the Draconian reptilians, when they brought this moon, this celestial megastructure into our solar system, right, which created the energy extraction matrix. When you're talking about the book of Genesis in chapter 3, verse 5, when you're talking about the creation of the simulation, but not the creation of the whole world and the whole universe. So this is all being facilitated by the Metatronic overlay, which is connected to their financial system, right? Because what you got to understand is that their financial system is connected to the circadian rhythm of the planet, which is the cosmic clock or the clock of destiny. So when you understand the phrase of J.P. Morgan, when he said that millionaires invest and billionaires invest in astrologers, because they know that the astrological alignments that's connected to the Metatronic overlay, that's also connected to the cosmic clock, is basically working on the symbiotic connection of time has to dismantle itself and go through a reset process, because the reset process in itself is basically an implementation of a matriarchal order under a sun cycle, right? So what you're looking at is all these clocks work in conjunction to the cosmic clock. And the cosmic clock is the clock of destiny, which is basically the master key of civilization, what you call the circle of life, right? So everything in the universe right now, when you're talking about the merging of dimensions, Revelation chapter 21, verse 1, new heaven and new earth, you're talking about the expansion and the contraction of different celestial megastructures, right? When you're talking about the sun, which is an interstellar vortex portal that takes you to a different space and time, whether it's inside of you from an internal perspective or from an external perspective, right? Because we are multidimensional beings and we live in a multidimensional universe, right? Which is also connected to the neurological chemistry of the Bathari gland, because when you understand the cuneiform language, Bara, which equates to a new different space and time, you go through a different space and time by way of the Great Reset that's connected to the cosmic clock, because our biological structure is connected to this planet that works in connection to the circadian rhythm of the planet, right? So with that being said, all these clocks work in conjunction. That's why in the movie Leave the World Behind, he understood when certain things and calamities and everything was going to take place. And he said everything operates on a curve, and that curve is the clock of destiny, right? So they know when their financial system is going to phase out. So this is why they building all these underground bunkers and things of that nature. And we're going to get into that later in the video. So like I said, everything is facilitated by their financial system. When you're talking about the United States debt clock, right? So they sees right here, it says the phrase of a new world order, right? Because they know that the inception point of the new world order is basically connected to the fact that you have the dismantling of the demiurge, which is the lower third dimension and the lower fourth dimension as we ascend into the fifth dimension, right? Like I said, Revelation chapter 21, verse 1, new heaven and new earth. So all these clocks, right, is connected to the Metatronic overlay, and it's connected to the cosmic clock and the clock of destiny, right? So that's why, you know, as the planet is going through a desolation of abomination or many different afflictions, what happens is these seven thunders basically causes a great reset or a great awakening period, right? That basically cuts off the corporate infrastructure system. So this is why the great majority of all these enterprises, these corporations, and these organizations, they filed Chapter 11. So this is where the United States Treasury took over the Federal Reserve System, because their time is up, according to the 1813 Freemasonic Apocrypha Bible, when it says that the year 2024 is equated to the year 6000. And we all know that according to Revelations, that Shaitan or Iblis or the devil or Lucifer, he only has a certain mandated cap on his planet, right? A certain time period, which basically dismantles at the year 6000, right? 6,000 year dominion over the planet, over a certain demographic of people on this planet who are your so-called chosen, right? Or the collective through the harmonic convergence of the 144,000. So when you're talking about the seculum of a cycle, which operates on the apex of a fourth turning, all this stuff is connected to the cosmic clock. So you have the first turning, which is basically an extroversion or a high order of an infrastructure, which was basically a maximum of community. And then you have the second turning, right, which is basically the discovery, right? When you're talking about colonization and all this infiltration that created this civilization of the westernized society. So this is where you have the falling period that's connected to the patriarchal order. Then you have the third turning, right, which was under the lunar cycle, when you have a process of experimentation. Then you have the fourth turning, where you have the fall of Western civilization by way of crisis introversion, right? Which is where you have a rising of a great awakening period, which causes a disrupt and a reset. And that reset is through the rise of a community that's being facilitated by a republic, with the restoration of a republic by the people. Like I said, based on the harmonic convergence of the 144,000. right? So with that being said, when you're going through these periods, right, you have many different periods all throughout the crisis aspect. Like I said, we at the fourth turning, which is basically the foundation of a crisis, and that crisis is the reset, the Great Awakening period. So in the midst of 2024 and 2025, when the sun is at solar maximum, so you got to understand scientific analytical data. Everything is based on sun cycle activation. Like I said in one of my last videos, the sun cycle activation is basically the precursor to everything that takes place here on planet Earth by way of the cosmic clock, by way of the clock of destiny, right? Because all this stuff is based on astrological alignments. When you have these energies and frequencies and these coronal mass ejections hitting the planet, that causes a World War III or a national revolutionary period, right? Now, everything is connected to the 24,000 year purification period, because I told you the sun cycle and the moon cycle is actually connected to the four horsemen of the apocalypse, which is equated to the four basic elements, right? Which is earth, wind, water, fire, right? So this is all based on the symbology of an affliction and a destruction and a chaotic order that's going to be taking place on the planet. But that chaotic order is going to be activated by the etheric frequency that's hitting the magnetic field coming from the magnetosphere, which is the abode of the Most High, which is the fifth dimension. So when you have ether collaborating with air, water, fire, and earth, that is basically going to spark destruction because, like I said, energy expands and returns to itself and goes right back to zero, which is a reset. So the same thing that created the inception of the planet and the inception of the universe is basically hit the reset button as far as, you know, causing a calamity and a crisis on the planet. The same thing that created everything as far as planet Earth is basically going to destroy planet Earth as far as their system, their corporate system, right? So now, now when you understand the Fibonacci sequence of the supreme mathematical geometrical shapes, all this stuff is connected to the fact it's based on harmonic convergence of the unity conscious aspect, because the four basic elements, fire, air, water, and earth, is connected to the sacred geometry that's connected to your oversoul or your overself, which is your higher self, which is also known as the spirit of Melchizedek, which is the Sufi order of the sons of green light. So you got the octahedron, which is a personification of gas, which is oxygen, which is air. And then you got the tetrahedron, which is a personification of light, which is nitrogen, which is fire. And then you got the isosahedron, which is the personification of liquid, which is hydrogen, which is water. And then you got the hexahedron, which is the personification of a solid, which is carbon, which is equated to earth. So when you have the dodecahedron, which is the quintessential alchemical element, the fifth element that merges in with these elements, right, the four basic elements, it causes a form of a great awakening, right, or that activates the Christ consciousness, right? Because what you got to understand is that the carbon body is a electromagnetic generator and a light code transducer. So when you have these elements and these ethers collaborating together, that sparks a consciousness on a planetary level, and it sparks a consciousness on a biological level and at a neurological level, because you have a neuroendocrine transducer, right? When it activates with these frequencies of light that's collaborating with the four basic elements that's on the planet and that's within you, because you are actually connected to the Fibonacci sequence of the planet by way of the supreme mathematics that is created by the Most High when he put down these nine noble gases, which is oxygen, helium, exon, radon, argon, krypton, and you had helium and sulfur. And all those elements together, like I said, the non-noble gases is what created the etheric frequency that created everything in existence. So the same thing that takes place on the planet as far as these elements is also within you. So as the planet is going through a metamorphic shift and a transformation, you're supposed to be transmuting and transforming along with the planet, right? Which is connected to the five overcells of the overself bodies. You got the epikinetic body, the gematria body, the Eka body, and the electromagnetic body, and the Zohar body that's connected to the dodecahedron, which is the quintessential alchemical element, which is the fifth element, which is the ether. You're supposed to go into a state of, you're supposed to go through a process of an evolutionary period by going through the mystery schools of the spirit of Melchizedek, right? Which is based on three different domains. You got three different domains that's connected to the initiation processes of the self-initiation process of the spirit of Melchizedek, because this three-dimensional world is based on solids, liquids, and gases, right? And those solids, liquids, and gases is activated by going through the path of Nasut, right? Which is the carbon body, because when you trap light inside of a fermented dome, that's what creates physical matter, which is the carbon, which is a solid state, because trapped light is a photon, which is a holographic projection that works in symbiotic connection with the Saturn moon matrix when you're talking about the magneto-hydrodynamic Cassini gaps on the rings of Saturn. So when you trap light, that creates a solid, which is carbon, which is you, right? Which is the number of man, 666, Revelation chapter 13, verse 18, right? So with that being said, you have the gases, liquids, and solids that's connected to the mystery schools of Melchizedek. So the path of Nasut is the carbon body, the physical state. The path of Malakut is the liquid state, where you become an adept, where you put yourself in alignment to where you become a supreme being. And then you have the path of Lalut, which is the gas state, to where it activates the etheric frequency to where you become an Ethereum, right? I hope I'm not losing you here. Because by way of the cosmic clock, your body has a circadian rhythm that's connected to the cosmic clock. So these four basic elements also activates the seven plagues and the seven thunders, right? And the seven thunders have been recorded all throughout ancient history, which is connected to the mythology of the Hopis, the Yamansi, the Nuwabians. And it's talking about, the apex of the fourth turning when you're talking about planet Nibiru coming into our atmosphere and causing a resurrection on the planet by way of the etheric frequency. The same thing that created the earth is going to destroy the earth, right? Based on unity consciousness. So it says right here, the first thunder, which is also activated by way of the seven trumpets, right? The seven trumpets and the seven seals and the seven thunders work in symbiotic connection, right? So now you get into the first thunder, which is based on starvation, famine, sickness, disease. And then you got the second thunder, where you're talking about the skies become sick with holes. So when you're talking about interstellar vortex portals, to where these portals, and when you have a dying star, it loses its magnetic field and it takes you to a different space and time through a black hole. So that is your merging of dimensions. And then you have the third thunder, which is where you have a new species, notations, and animals, crossbreeding, many different, species that has a different ecosystem, because when you have a different ecosystem by way of merging in dimensions, that creates a different ecological system. And then you have the fourth thunder, which is basically the signs of the twins, which is Yah and Wei, right? Which is connected to the magnetic pole shift in itself, where you have the destruction of the morals and religion and the financial infrastructure that was created by Enlil or Yahweh or Lucifer or whatever you want to call him, Baal or Moloch. And then you have the fifth thunder, right? Which is where it's talking about the floods and the abomination of desolation and many different calamities on the planet. When you're talking about earthquakes, right? When you have the activation of the seismic activity that is spiked from the Schumann resonance spike, right? Which is also connected to ether. And then you have the sixth thunder, when you see occurring changes in new planets, new galaxies, meteorites, climate accelerations, global warming. When you're talking about global warming, you're really talking about the activation of the sun cycle, right? And then you got the seventh thunder, which is basically the personification of the end of the world it, which is connected to the year of 2030, where the dome cracks open in itself. And we're going to get into that in another video, right? So like I said, this is all connected to the seven trumpets. So when you go to Revelations 8, chapters all throughout chapter 8 and chapter 9 and chapter 11, it's talking about, you know, blackouts. When you go to Revelations chapter 8, verse 12, um, it says that the fourth trumpet, when you have one third of the sun and the moon and stars darkened, that is your personification of a blackout. When you're talking about the World Economic Forum, when you have these CMEs, these corona mass ejections hitting the planet, that is what they're talking about, a power grid or a power outage. I'm going to show you a video that's connected to everything that I'm saying. Froze up on me, but let me find this video for you. Now, this video that I'm going to be showing you is talking about, you know, the calamity of a power outage. If I could find it. Let's see. Bear with me here. For a second. We're going to find it. So when you go to, like I said, you go to Revelations chapter 8, right? We're going to pull it right back up. So I found the video. Now, when you're talking about Revelations chapter 8, verses 12 through 13, which is connected to the fourth trumpet, you have one third of the sun, moon, stars, dark, and blackout, which is basically your personification of the power grid shutting down that was, you know, implemented by the World Economic Forum, said 2 years ago that it's inevitable that we're going to have a cyber attack, right? Because what you got to understand is that the Metatronic overlay is connected to the interstellar ley line grid system. And that ley line grid system is basically the foundation of the simulation. So the simulation in itself, when you're talking about these artificial celestial bodies inside of the dome, when the power grid shuts off, that is where you're going to have the return of the Nephilim. We're going to get into that, right? So that passage that I just read to you in Revelation chapter 8, verses 12 to 13 is connected to this.
There are many Izinyoka among us these days.
Pay
Izinyoka.
attention. He was a shapeshifter. Because like I said, when you go all throughout Revelations chapter 8 all the way to 11, it's telling you about the return of a Nephilim. It's telling you about the return of these so-called cherubim, right? Of the 200 fallen angels. So I need people to understand the diametrical difference between the cherubim and the seraphim. So you're talking about the Anunnaki when you're talking about those sent by Anu to Ki. Ki means Kai, Makai means planet Earth. Because planet Kai, when you understand the geometrical shape of the letter G, right? Geo, the prefix of the word means Ki, which is Kai. So the supreme architect of the universe, who is Anu or El Elyon El, he sent the seraphim down to the planet, which is your so-called Anunnaki, those sent by Anu to Ki. Then you have the cherubim. The cherubim are basically your personification of the 200 fallen angels. And those 200 fallen angels are your so-called Nephilim. Now, when you go to ancient Hebrew text, the word Nephilim comes from the word Nephala, which equates to a fallen angel. So these fallen angels are going to return to the surface of the planet according to Revelations chapters 8 through 11, when you have one third of the moon, one third of the stars darkened. So that's why it's showing you right here in commercial format that you're going to have the black nobility, draconian archons are going to return to the surface of the planet when you have the simulation shut down. But I'm going to show you why these, they creating these underground bunkers and everything. It has it has nothing to do with a war. It has nothing to do with, hiding from bombs and things of that nature. They know something is going to be taking place and it's something metaphysical. It has nothing to do with the physicality aspect when you're talking about the mobilization of many different militaries from different countries and things of that nature when you're talking about an invasion. So I'm going to play this video.
There are many Izinyoka among us these days. Izinyoka that steal cables, cutting the power supply. Izinyoka that make illegal connections. Selling stolen cables. They are everywhere. So help ESCOM put these Izinyoka where they deserve to be, in a hole. Don't take the law into your own hands. Call the ESCOM crime line. Confidentiality guaranteed.
So with that being said, that video was basically displaying everything talking about Revelation chapter 8, right? When you have 1/3 of the simulation, 1/3 of the stars, 1/3 of the moon, 1/3 of the sun, and everything that's connected to the simulation, the Metatronic overlay, everything that's connected to the material plane, that is basically the precursor to the return of Nephilim that's going to come to the surface of the planet. They've been showing you all throughout many different movies and commercials, and I'm going to get into that, right? So back to the theological context. So that's when you have the false Messiah. He's basically gonna the false Messiah is gonna unlock the key to the bottomless pit, right? So this is where this is works in conjunction to everything what I just said, right? Let me find it. So, like with that being said, it's not a coincidence that you got 15 billionaires build bunkers this past week, and you don't find that suspicious or weird. That's because they know something's going to be taking place. Because, like I said, we're at the apex of a foreturning that operates on the seculum of a cycle, right? And that seculum of a cycle is where you have a revealing, right? To reveal what is hidden. And what is revealed, what is hidden, when you're talking about these underground bunker stations. So it's not a coincidence that they've been in all these underground bunker systems, doomsday bunkers, right? So just like connected to that video, you see in the beginning points of everything that's starting to take place. You got power outages in Indiana, Michigan, outages in Northampton County. You got all these power outages, which is basically showing you what's going to be taking place in the future. So you got power outages in Miami-Dade County, Western Alaska, the city of Aspen, Southeast Queensland. You have the national grid is planning a power outage on January 6th, which is basically in the Green Sea region, and you got outages in village of Walden. So you got all these power outages, right? So it's something deeper that's taking place. So when you're talking about, Revelation chapter 9, verse 11, right? You're talking about the unlocking of the key of the bottomless pit, which is equated to that new building that they built in New York City, right? Which is the 33 Thomas building, which is 33 is a Freemasonic number. And that is a building that doesn't have any numbers. And according to many different whistleblowers, right? All these whistleblowers were talking about this building, which is the 33 Thomas Street building. They said that this building underground is connected to all military bases underground, the deep underground military bunker systems underground that's connected to the airport over in Denver, Colorado, right? And what's underneath these buildings, I'm going to show you a video. Because this building is also said to be where they do a lot of genetic experimentation. So that's what brings you to this video here.
Look what this guy had to say about the government hiding Nephilim giants in their military bases. Greg Renrich, that was one of the things. that he told me he's the one that was talking about seeing the giants in the deep underground military bases. He said that one of the first things that they had to do before he was allowed to go into S4 or S20 or any of the others, they made him sign an affidavit saying, you're not allowed to use the name Jesus Christ in these underground facilities, not even if you stub your toe or anything.
So with that being said, now you hear a lot of people, talking about Nephilim giants, and you talking about these pastors, you talking about, all these people, whether it's in a conscious community or in a spiritual community, they say that it's a conspiracy theory that Nephilim or these giants exist or whatever, right? They say they don't exist. So according to Deuteronomy chapter 3, verses 8, right, it tells you that the equivalence of a giant is equated at 9 cubits, and 1 cubit of a man is equated to 18 inches, right? And then you take 18 divided by 3, you get 666, because 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18. And then when you go to Revelations chapter 13, verse 18, that is equated to the number of man. So you take 9 cubits and you take 1 cubit of a man, which is 18 inches. So you take 9 times 18, you get 162. And then you take 162 times 12, you get 13.5 feet, which is equated to the length and the feet of the Nephilim, right? So giants do basically exist. So with that being said, this building on the 33 Thomas Street building is connected to all these underground military bunker systems where they hide these Nephilim, because I told you I heard by way of a whistleblower that they do genetic experimentation in this building, right? Which also leads you to the fact that you have the Sakaar, or which is another draconian faction, right? Which is also the personification of a Nephilim, right? Because when you look at this depiction right here, it's showing you a draconian or a gargoyle, which is also connected to a faction of the draconian reptilian. These are the Nephilim when you unlock the key to the bottomless pit. So this 33 St. Thomas Street building is the key to the bottomless pit, which is connected to Mystery Babylon because it's in New York City. So it tells you right here, how did the military defeat the Sakaar, which is a draconian reptilian faction underground in Vatican's tunnels, right? So this is a real thing that's actually taking place. So now I need you to understand something, right? So you got this movie right here called Cabin in the Woods, where you have these puppeteers, these elitists underground, facilitating everything underground to where certain things take place on the surface of the planet, where it was creating a form of a simulation that was taking place. Everything was computer generated. Everything was based on a holographic projection through their Metatronic overlay, their computer system. Everything had a supercomputer to where you could bring these Nephilim up underground and bring them to the surface to where it had some type of sacrifice. Because when you watch this movie, right, in order for the puppeteers and the elite to maintain their power, they needed to sacrifice the people on the surface that lived inside of that cabin, right? So when you're looking at right here, these are cryptids, but cryptids are also known as to be fallen angels. Fallen angels is not only acclimated to giants, it's not only acclimated to Zeta Reticula it's not only acclimated to draconian reptilians. They're also, connected to Mothman and Bigfoot. These are basically, many different entities that take corporeal form that has that come in the name of a different entity. When you're talking about the 72 forms of demons. So like I said, this is in the movie. These are basically cryptids, and a cryptid is also known as a fallen angel, right? And these cryptids that in the movie, they came to the surface, and the puppeteers needed those people who lived inside of these cabins in order to be sacrificed to maintain their power, to maintain this matrix system, to maintain extra time on the planet, right? But they needed a sacrifice. So now when you go to Dr. York's publication talking about Shambhala and Nargartha, the cities within, it is talking about these same underground bunker systems that has these cryptids, that has these fallen angels, and it's called Nightmare Hall, right? Where you have many different creatures at 7 feet tall. These extraterrestrials have taught humans a lot about genetics. So whether if they're being created or whether it's something that was, you know, fell from the demiurge and, you know, and basically locked inside the bottomless pit when you're talking about these underground bunker systems. Now I'm going to show you a video. Because I told you everything they do is based on a form of a sacrifice, right? And so this video in real time is going to show you how, in order to maintain power, in order to maintain dominance, they have to sacrifice. In order to maintain this, you know, this illusionary simulation that we live in that's connected to the energy of the moon, they have to keep up the patriarchal order, because the patriarchal order is facilitated by showing their credence and veneration to Enlil, who is Yahweh, who is Moloch, right? So sacrifice is connected to everything that takes place, which is why you had the Epstein list that came out, right? When you're talking about the sacrifice of children and trafficking and things of that nature, the same thing actually takes place in this video that I'm going to be showing you.
Oh, great God. I humbly thank you for inviting me here.
Human, where is your sacrifice?
You hear what he say? He say, human, where is your sacrifice? That's why on time, every time, 800 to 1,000,000 kids come up missing all the time, because it's being done at the highest level of government. They have to show a sacrifice to maintain dominance on this planet through a patriarchal order under the lunar cycle. Now we're in the sun cycle. When you're in the sun cycle, you cannot bring patriarchy into this, into the, you know, into the connected to the Fibonacci sequence of nature, right? You cannot bring, you know, something that's connected to the material aspect into the energy of nature. You cannot do that, right? Because that basically breaks cosmic law. I'm gonna bring it back for a second.
Here.
Human, where is your sacrifice?
What? Oh, you mean, do you want that?
Bring me your sacrifice.
Yes, right away, sir.
The creatures who deceive the humans in the name of God were reptile-like aliens called reptilians. The reptilians like to eat the animals of Earth and occasionally enjoyed eating human flesh too. They brainwashed the Earthlings by using the name of God, when their true intentions were to invade and overtake the Earth.
But this was a violation of the Universal Code, which states that no planet should interfere with any other planet as long as its people live with the spirit of love and harmony.
They cunningly devised a plan that would not breach the Universal Code. They brainwashed individuals and used them to instigate disorder in society. This gave the reptilians a reason to interfere. They then intended to have their compatriots immigrate to Earth so they could control the planet before the space police interfered.
I'm here to take your daughter. She has been chosen to be the next sacrifice to God.
So I need you to understand something. She said, in order to be the next sacrifice to God, because there is a diametrical difference between God and the Most High. God spelled with a capital G with lowercase letters, that is equated to Yahweh according to the Tetragrammaton, which means agreeable and disagreeable, right? Which is connected to draconian law. Draconian law is acclimated to trafficking, acclimated to sexual proclivities and things of that nature when you're talking about the Epstein list. So like I said, they got to show their credence and their veneration to their God to maintain power on this planet, right? That's when you get into the Gnostic text when you're talking about the archons. I did a video on the archons, right? So with that being said, when you look at it from that perspective, like I said, these cryptids, these Nephilim, they come to the surface of the planet when the grid goes down. And that's when these that's when the plutocracy and these oligarchs and these elites, these celebrities, these billionaires, they go underground as they have the Nephilim feed on humanity as a form of a sacrifice so they can maintain their power, because they know we're going through a reset. They know we're going through reset because they know that the cosmic convergence in itself is connected to the clock of destiny. So that's how they able to know what's going to be taking place, know when to build these bunkers. They know when the financial system is going to phase out, right? They know when the grid is going to go down. They know when, according to Revelation chapter 8, when 1/3 of the moon and the sun and the stars is smitten out, right? They know when the simulation is going to be shut down. That's why they got to build these bunkers. When they build these bunkers, that's when they unlock the key to the bottomless pit, right? And they bring them to the surface and they feed on humanity. But we're going to get into it in a second. Now, when you go to this movie, it's talking about a knock at the cabin. See, it's got to be, because a cabin is also the symbology of living off the grid and returning right back to nature, which is basically a form of a transmutation of power and transformation by going from the Metatronic overlay or the material plane going back into nature. So this movie, when you're looking at these four people right here, they were basically the personification of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, right? So the four horsemen of the apocalypse was basically connected to the fact that they needed a sacrifice. These four people needed to sacrifice the people who was living inside this cabin in order to maintain their power. So it's not a coincidence that this movie, A Knock at the Cabin, is basically in connection to this movie, The Cabin in the Woods, because both of those movies are basically talking about sacrifice. And it's talking about sacrifice because the elite, they need to extend their timeline, so they got to sacrifice us, because I told you, according to, this is all going to come full circle, because I told you that the Federal Reserve System, when they filed Chapter 11, there are $33 trillion in debt, right? Now, there are $33 trillion in debt, according to the United States debt clock system. So now when you understand that, when we have these Social Security cards, right, which has a QSIP number on the back, which is Community Uniform Security Identification Procedure. So we are the humanoid real estate, because the money is not backed by nothing. So in order to reset the debt, they got to sacrifice us, because we are the real currency, because the money is not backed by a natural resource. So since we have our humanoid real estate to the system under the 14th Amendment, which is a fraudulent contract, in order to suspend their debt, they got to sacrifice. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why it keeps pausing, but in order for them to suspend their debt, they got to come in the form of a sacrifice, right? Because I told you, the United States Corporation, which filed Chapter 11, right? The Federal Reserve System filed Chapter 11. All these corporations and enterprises that's connected to their system all filed Chapter 11, right? Because it's the end of the 6,000-year verification period. So in order to suspend the debt of the $33 trillion, right, because this is fiat currency, which is why the Treasury took over the Federal Reserve. So now when you have all these so-called United States citizens, because citizens is basically connected to chattel slavery. So when the United States corporation is $33 trillion in debt to the international banking system, in order to suspend the debt, you got to kill off these people, right? So the elite who control the financial infrastructure are going underground to suspend the debt in the name of a sacrifice when these Nephilim or these cryptids come to the surface of the planet when you have the power grid shut down, right? So like I said, when you go to this movie, A Knock at the Cabin, it's also in connection to the movie The Cabin in the Woods, because they're both talking about sacrifice to maintain survival, to maintain self-preservation, which is the first rule of nature, right? But when you're talking about the harmonic convergence, right, of the 144,000, this is where, those who are tapped in to the spirit of Melchizedek, those who are operating from the Sufi order of the Sons of Green Light, those who have the sigil or the symbol of the Most High on their forehead, when you're talking about the activation of the Christ consciousness, these entities that's going to come to the surface, they will not be able to touch you, right? Because it creates an electromagnetic force field. So now when you're talking about this movie World War Z, when they was in a state of a zombie apocalypse, what happened? He had a serum to where it basically shielded off his auric field, his morphogenetic field, to where these zombies could not see him. He was able to walk through this hallway without the zombies touching him. So notice that you see the letter Z right there, because the letter Z is connected to the esoteric aspect of the centripetal and the centrifugal forces conjoining together. When you're talking about Revelation chapter 21, verse 1, the man is personification of the heaven force, and the woman is the personification of the earth force. So when you have the harmonic convergence of the 144,000 of the man and the woman, it raises up the electromagnetic field of those people who are chosen, the elect, to where they don't, be swallowed up by these Nephilim that's going to be coming to the surface, because they're going to have the seal of the Most High on their forehead, right? And when you have the seal of the Most High on your forehead, that is the personification of the tetrahedron energy, where you have the merging of the earth plane merged in with the spiritual plane, mind, body, and soul. So when you have that mind, body, and soul activation, it creates a morphogenetic field, which is a electrical force field surrounding the body, to where you have that green ethereal energy. Because it's kind of like the movie Aliens, right? Or the Alien versus Predator. Those who was operating on the green frequency, they did get attacked because they had night vision. They had night vision embedded upon they had a night vision technology. Anything that was vibrating on red, they attacked it. Anything was vibrating on the energy of green, they didn't attack it. So your whole electromagnetic force field has a torus field. And that torus field creates a green ethereal energy around you, to where these Nephilim that's going to come to the surface, right? These Nephilim that's going to come to the surface in the form of a sacrifice, they're not going to be able to touch you, because you got the seal or the sigil of the Most High on your forehead, which is activated by a tetrahedron energy, right? That's what this is all about, because it's connected to the oversoul. Because I told you that these is all based on the alchemical elements, the fifth element, right? The quintessential alchemical element that activates the Zohar body, which is the etheric frequency, right? So, with that being said, I'm going to show you some videos, because I know I was talking too much. So this is why they know we at reset. They know we at the Great Awakening period, right? They know that the great majority of everything on the planet has to go through a reset. Notice when you're talking about the global crisis seminar that they had, you see the 8 at the top, because I told you 8 is a personification of karma, building and destroying, to where energy expands and returns to itself in the name of karma. So the energy that you put out under the lunar cycle has to come right back to your ass in the form of nature, activated by the 7 thunders under the clock of destiny, because your time is running out. It's an expiration date for the third dimension. There's no evolution for the third dimension, right? So this is why they crying and all that other shit when you click on this video.
And we're all here to tell you the real situation with the climate, so that you can understand once and for all that the situation humanity is in right now has never occurred in the planet's entire history.
Yeah, your time up. Yeah. Don't don't cry now. Colonization, classism, racism, imperialism, all facilitated under patriarchy, right? All these things was facilitated by patriarchy to show credence to your civilization under draconian law. Don't cry now. You know what I'm saying? Because they know that many different things is going to be taking place, because it's the end of their system. The 6,000 years is up, right? The 6,000 years is up. And they know that the kings of the earth is back. They know that you're going to have the harmonic convergence of the 144,000, right? So this is why everything, when you're talking about the alchemical aspect of art imitating reality, right? Because anything that you put inside the ethers, when you trap light, when you trap thought, it becomes a form of manifestation. So everything that you see in these movies is actually taking place in real time. So when you click this, when I click this video, it's going to be showing you the same exact thing that took place in the movie Leave the World Behind, right? It's going to be showing you all these papers flying in the sky, and when you pick up the paper, it's telling you about the evacuation process, right? While at the same time you have these doomsday bunkers being built up underground by these elites and plutocracy, because they know something's about to happen. Because I told you, we at the apex of a fourth turning, right? You at the end of a seculum of a cycle. This last cycle is based on chaos, right? It's based on a crisis. It's based on the abomination of a desolation, right?
خلال برمي مناشير في 7 يونس. تعال نشوف ايش مكتوب فيها. تحذير عاجل إلى سكان بلوك 112 مخيم خان يونس.
So it says right here, but let me go back. It says right here, the residents of Barrage, the neighbors, considered to be, like I said, immediately evacuated from this area, right? So everything is taking place. It's talking about evacuation, and you're gonna soon see all that in America, right? Why? Because they know that the unity consciousness, they know that the unity consciousness in itself is creating an influx of energy that's activated by the sun, right? Which is why you see 2 suns in the sky right here. I think this was in Australia, I believe. I'm not sure. Somebody sent this video to me. And then you also have in Saudi Arabia. Like I said, hold on for a second. Then you had in Saudi Arabia. Get that video out of here. You had in Saudi Arabia where you had, like I said, everything is going back into its original state. Everything is going back into a form of balancement to where it reverberates the spiritual equilibrium of the planet that activates this Fibonacci sequence of nature. So Saudi Arabia, which used to be a deserted and a desolate area, has reverted back into the green frequency. Because I told you, green is connected to the Fibonacci sequence of the planet, which is also connected to the Schumann resonance spike, and the Schumann resonance spike is being activated by the ether that's penetrating the magnetosphere and amplifying the magnetic field of the planet to where nature starts to take over everything that was subjugated by the lunar cycle, right?
Saudi deserts are turning green. This Saudi desert, which was filled with sand and dry lands just a few months ago, is now blooming with greenery and is home to almost 200 different species of plants and animals. Countless videos have emerged of Umrah travelers showing beautiful scenes of greenery on their way to Mecca. Could this be another part of Saudi's Vision 2030? What do you think?
Like I told you, everything as far as these anomalies and everything that's taking place, that is a sign of the 7th seal. That is a sign of the activation of the 7 thunders. You're going to see, the green frequency of the Aurora Borealis, which is basically the operated from ionization particles. When it collaborates with ether and carbon, that's when you get the green etheric frequency. You're going to see it all over the atmosphere. You ain't going to just see it in Alaska. You ain't going to see it just in certain geographical landmass. You're going to see it all over the planet. The sky is going to turn green. And that is going to be the sign to activate. That is going to be the sign to get your shit together, right? Right before the time runs out. Everything in nature is activating, which is why you see all these crows out here at nighttime. So that means that the circadian rhythm of the planet is reverting back into a certain energy, right? It's going back into a certain balancement because a crow is a representation of transformation and destruction. So you see all these crows out here in Japan out at nighttime. So when you at the apex of a fourth turning, everything reverts back. See all these birds out here, all these crows. Because, like I said, a crow is a representation of transformation. It's a representation of karma. So it's not a coincidence that 8 is also the symbology of karma. So the symbology of karma, meaning that you have to get out of the time loop. You have to get out of the artificial time analysis mechanism, which keeps you in stuck in an infinity loop. So in order to get out of the infinity loop, you got to activate the spirit of Melchizedek, right? Because these same energies is activating the planet, you got to activate with it. And this activation is causing many different interstellar vortex portals to open up to where these green etheric frequencies to come in. So like I said, everything is taking place in real time, right? So one thing about, when you talk, it's easy to get on camera and just sit there and talk all day, but as we're going into this metamorphic shift on the planet, as we're going into the Great Awakening period, you have to show people through scholarship. You got to show people through the arts because saying things is just not enough. People need to see everything that's taking place in real time. They got to see it with their own eyes, right? So you having an activation on the planet because the seismic activity of the planet is being activated by the supersonic battery of planet Earth, which is the black sun inside the planet, right? Because that black sun operates on fractions of light that penetrates the dome, right? And it's operating, it's like a mirror effect because the two celestial bodies that we have inside the simulation, which is the sun and the moon, which is equated to the false light, because the only true light is the sun outside of the dome, which is the star Polaris. So the star Polaris is operating on fractions of light, hitting the two discs and then hitting the black sun on planet Earth and activating the seismic activity. So when you have an activation of the seismic activity, it causes earthquakes, it causes the movement of tectonic plates and things of that nature. I'm gonna show you this video. Who knows? That could be a Nephilim trying to get out. That whole ground is moving. It's crazy. So with that being said, many different things, so many anomalies is taking place, right? All these anomalies is taking place on the surface of the planet, right? And now, all these anomalies is taking place because I told you. Now we're going to get into, matter of fact, I'm going to show you the rest of the anomalies because we're going to get into that. We're going to be talking about the aliens or the so-called these entities that was in Miami, Florida. We're going to get into that. Now, you got all these anomalies, right? So that's how you know that we at the end of a cycle. You got all these things that's taking place. You got, plasma energy hitting the magnetosphere and activating the magnetic field of the planet. You got all these, thunders and earthquakes, planetary shifts and everything. Right? And who knows? You know what I'm saying? That could be a cloaked UFO. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, when you activate that spiritual eye, your spiritual eye has the same capabilities as Dicinian glass, right? Which is ultraviolet light when you activate the crown chakra. So through the course of time, that same ether that I've been talking about, it's going to activate that spiritual eye to where you could be able to see UFOs and entities and things of that nature. Now you have this calamity that took place in Japan, right? Because I told you, when you have ether collaborating with the four basic elements, I'm going to pull up the graph here in a second. Because the four basic elements, air, fire, water, earth, are basically a personification of the four horsemen. So that activates the manifestations of nature to cast judgment on the planet. So when a planet is in a state of judgment under a matriarchal order in the sun cycle, that sparks up the Fibonacci sequence, right? Because when you have ether, which is a dodecahedron or the quintessential alchemical element, the fifth element, merged in with fire, air, water, and earth, it activates the planet and it activates you because all those elements are within the carbon body, right? As I was saying, because the carbon body is an electromagnetic generator and a light code transducer where you transduce the carbon body by going into a crystalline state. When you're in a crystalline state, that's when you get these fractions of light that activates the spirit of Melchizedek, right? Or activates the Holy Ghost particles, which are basically nitroids, that sparks the soul of man or Solomon's temple, where you get the tetrahedron energy that looks like the Star of David, to where you have the sigil of the Most High on your forehead, to where these Nephilim, right, or nothing on the planet can infiltrate your cipher, right? Which is basically connected to the fact you have a morphogenetic field that's connected to your etheric cord on the planet, right? So that's how everything works in connection to what I'm saying. Everything is activating. So when you have ether penetrating the magnetosphere, right, coming into our atmosphere and infiltrating the nitrogen sky, because our sky is made up of 78% nitrogen. And that nitrogen, when you understand the sigil system of the atomic structure, it is the foundation and the glue of the Metatronic overlay. So when you have these new energies coming in, these etheric frequencies, what it does is it sparks destruction or creation. That's what ether is, right? It is the symbology of the nine, and it basically dissipates into six, which is nothingness, which is equated to the material plane under the lunar cycle, because the sun is the personification of nine ether, the moon is personification of six ether, right? So when you have the ether coming in, it dismantles the sixth etheric frequency that was created by or being governed by these six ether beings who got their edification and their power from the Draconian Reptilian or the Nephilim, right? When you go to Revelation chapter 17, verse 17 in El's Holy Angel, because that's when the evil reptilian gave power to the beast. He gave power to the beast by way of sacrifice, as I was telling you in the video, when you watch that sacrifice video. All these calamities.
Eu vou.
Eu vou, né?
Eu vou.お家が全開で倒れてしまっています。 避難所に向かおうとする車と、なんかちょっとパニックになってます。高台にみんな行こうとするんだけど、途中の道路がダメで、ひどいことになってるみたいです。なんか情報が錯綜していて、今、みんなパニックってます。冷静になれるように祈っていてください。
重くない？That's crazy. No, no. 一発目到達中、津波一発目到達中、萩原橋到達、萩原橋到達中、一発目来ます。You know, we only 6 days into 2024, and all this stuff is happening on the planet. 2024 to year 8, where energy expands and returns to itself. You're gonna get your motherfucking karma, and it's gonna be activated by nature. So you got all these weather anomalies going on, right? All this stuff taking place, being activated. Because I told you the quintessential alchemical element, the fifth element, is the secret element. And that secret element activates everything on the planet. Right? So now this is where we get into the alien stuff and you know, when you're talking about what took place in Miami, Florida. So it says right here, police scanners, witnesses, cameras, phone recordings, all these things are basically being confiscated. And it was so it was a lot of people who had video evidence. Everything has been confiscated. They even shut down the power grid system in that geographical area, so people didn't have all that stuff saved on their phone. Right? They basically did a cyber sweep of everything that was on the cameras or whatever. So I'm gonna show you this video of this lady talking about it. But first, I'm gonna show you this video right here because it says right here, you have a massive police presence in Bayside of area, Miami, Florida. Witness claim they saw creatures or beings walking at the mall. You got black helicopters and things of that nature.
What do you feel? Oh, that's what that is? Guys, it's really.
Yeah, no, that's why I came over here.
They got the whole police force out there. All right.
Para que sean testigos de cuando se produce una llamada a todo.
Now I'm going to show you what the lady said about this situation. Because everything, you know, is based on logic and rationality. And especially when it comes to black people, because I know the great majority of people who are not tapped into metaphysical information, esoteric information, they claim that everything is a conspiracy theory, but they only show credence and veneration when other demographics of people dispel information. They only believe it, but if it's coming from me, they're not going to believe it because I'm not a white person. So I'm gonna let this lady tell you in real time what actually took place, and it's coming from a logical perspective because you don't have that, all those patrol cars out there for no reason. They don't even have that many patrol cars out there when you have a so-called terrorist attack or, somebody coming into school with, a school shooting or whatever. You don't never see that many police cars. So something actually took place. I'm going to play this video.
It's going to get real. A couple of days in Miami, Florida, at a mall, the local police were dispatched to the mall for an argument, a fight that broke out between juveniles. Juveniles, they say, had sticks and fireworks. Oh my. But ultimately, the call, what they claim was the call, the reason for the police officers to arrive at the scene, was due to a fight that had broken out between juveniles who had sticks and fireworks. But Auntie, why do you care if that's on the news? That isn't a big deal. No, my friend, no, it's not. It is definitely not that big of a deal. I agree with you. And it is definitely, hands down, not a big enough deal for the local Miami Police Department to show up on the scene just like this. Right? That seems like a lot of officers to show up. But my friends, that is not anywhere near all that came. And once you understand and you hear the eyewitnesses' stories, I believe you will at that point understand a little bit better as to why so many police officers, probably 100, along with choppers, black choppers from the PD, patrolling the scene from above. And according to witnesses, eyewitnesses there, the Miami police was not dispatched there for a juvenile fight. And the obvious need for such an enormous police presence was far more sinister than what we've been told. As multiple witnesses claimed to have seen, I can't believe I'm going to say this, creatures that stood 8 to 10 feet tall, walking outside and even inside of the mall. And
let me interject. Remember the same entities that Norman Burgum's seen when he said he seen a video of 7 to 10 feet tall blacks or black entities coming out of a spaceship, right? He said that in the early 2000s. So, and he said that was on planet Saturn. So the Saturnians is connected to the fact that a Saturnian is the personification of a cherubim, which is a fallen one. Right? Because everything in the Earth zone, which is connected to the Milky Way, everything in the Earth zone is basically connected to the demiurge, the lower fourth dimension and the lower third dimension, right? They work in conjunction together. So you have the Saturnians or the cherubim, they're basically the same entities. Because Saturn is actually a fallen planet. It used to be a star. It's a fallen star. But I'm going to play the video.
Was far more sinister than what we've been told. As multiple witnesses claimed to have seen, I can't believe I'm going to say this, creatures that stood 8 to 10 feet tall, walking outside and even inside of the mall. And the pew-pews that were reported, and even the pew-pews you might hear in some of the videos, had nothing to do with the juvenile fight. According to these witnesses, it was actually the mall-goers shooting to protect themselves from these 8 to 10 foot tall creatures in self-defense.
So like I said, all those cop cars, 75 cop cars out there for no reason. Hold on for a second. She's talking again.
Wait, it gets better. Along with the ridiculously high number of police officers that arrived on the scene and the helicopter flying above. Apparently, after this incident was phoned into the police, the Black PD helicopters were the only things flying that night in the Miami sky. As the Miami airport was shut down, still no flights going or coming at Miami International, only one PD helicopter patrolling the area. The absolute lack of this story anywhere is absolutely driving me mad. On my Google search, I found nothing. I found crickets. Ironic. Even my ex, not my ex, even X let me down. Well, my ex let me down too, but that's a whole nother story. As when I searched on X, this is what I found. No results for people shooting at Miami Mall, 8 to 9 feet tall creatures. Okay, valid. Let's remove the obvious. Do another search without the 8 to 9 foot tall creatures. Well, now that's suspicious. Still no results for Miami Mall shooting January 2024. Now that's very suspicious. Because judging by the size of the police presence, the helicopter, but wait, there's more. You would think even X would have one post about it. but nothing. Thank goodness for social media, though, because where would we be in situations like this when the media chooses not to report if we didn't have incredible people going to social media to post details about it themselves? Can someone confirm they've cut the police scanner? Checked flight tracker, doesn't look like any flights leaving or coming into MIA. You can see the helicopter doing loops. Yes, they cut the scanners. Multiple people claim they saw 8 to 10 foot tall aliens or very tall zombies, and it caused shoppers panic. There are now black helicopters flying and everything is blocked off. Power has also been cut in a few blocks and at the mall. So you're going to tell me that the police literally cut the public's access to the police scanners, all because some juveniles are fighting with sticks? Okay. And they're going to cut the power, not only to surrounding areas, but also the power to the mall itself.
Like I said, make it make sense. That don't make sense for you to, over a fight. Nah, I'm not buying that.
Police scanners, all because some juveniles are fighting with sticks? Okay. And they're going to cut the power, not only to surrounding areas, but also the power to the mall itself. So much so that 61,290 homes are without power at that time. On Reddit, we found anyone following what happened in Miami last night, apparently mass sighting of 7 to 10 foot tall creatures. Flights halted, police radio cut off, and helicopters patrolling. So are you really telling me that they're hoping, they're praying that we are all going to just believe this? Miami police, a large fight broke out involving several juveniles, some of whom may have been armed with some kind of sticks. Police are still continuing their investigation at this time. Okay, you know who else is doing their investigation at this time? Me and the rest of the world. You cannot be serious when you tell me you're going to cut the power to the mall and multiple homes in Miami, shut down a whole airport, no planes in and no planes out, have hundreds of police officers storming the mall, rushing to the scene, and Black PD helicopters scouring and patrolling the area from above, all simply because of the juvenile fight where some of the juveniles were armed with some kind of sticks. No, sir, I kindly reject this. I do not believe this at all. So, guys, I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Because to you, does this look like the type of police presence that would ever be warranted or required for a fight between juveniles with sticks?
No.
That's what that is? It's really.
Yeah, no, that's why I can't remember.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Because of all of that fanfare, that police presence was really over juveniles fighting with sticks, and I was a Miami citizen, I would be demanding my taxpayer dollar back. Something much larger, much bigger, far more giant and sinister happened there that night in Miami at that mall. And just like the witnesses all stated, it wasn't kids with sticks. That looks way more like the response to a threat of 8 to 10 feet tall creatures, whether aliens or zombies or Nephilim, and mall goers having to respond by pew-pewing to defend and to protect themselves.
So with that being said, according to that dissertation, right, talking about those entities, right? Now, it's connected to this movie. But first, like I said, for those coming in, you got to understand the personification of the Nephilim when you go to Deuteronomy chapter 3, verses 8. It tells you the equated size of the Nephilim when you're talking about 9 cubits, right? Because 1 cubit of a man is 18 inches. And 18 divided by 3 is 6, because 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18, which is the number of man, Revelation chapter 13, verse 18, right? So now you take 9 cubits times 18, you get 162. And then you take 162 inches divided by 12, you get 13.5 feet. So that's the size of the Nephilim, which is either anywhere from 10 feet to 13 feet, right? So you got to watch this movie called Hellbound. It's where these dark entities, as the lady was talking about, they come to the surface of the planet and they kill off humanity in the form of a sacrifice, right? They kill off humanity for those who are not living according to the cosmic convergence, right? So you got to watch. This movie used to be on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's on there anymore. But like I said, it's showing you these Nephilim or Saturnians. I don't know if these are the same beings that Norman Burgum's seen getting off a spaceship on planet Saturn. But we all know that Saturn is connected to the cherubim. The cherubim are the 200 fallen angels. The 200 fallen angels are the archons. The archons are the draconians, which is connected to the Nephilim. Nephilim, which is equated to the Hebrew word Nephala, which fallen, and the fallen are the draconian reptilian, right? Who fell in frequency. So, like I said, when you understand the transmutation process of the alchemic structure of these Nephilim, some of them can take corporeal form, some of them can come in a physical body, or they can not take corporeal form. Some can be in the etheric state, or some can take a physical state to where they take upon the vessel by way of connecting themselves to a person's nervous system and controlling them to where they can shapeshift back and forth. It's kind of like a remote control aspect where they can control people by way of their nervous system, right? Because it's like an energy extraction. So, like I said, you got these Nephilim in the movie talking about Hellbound. They come to the surface of the planet and they kill off a lot of people, right? So, let's see. So, for those who are coming in, who don't understand what's taking place right now, what I'm basically talking about is how you have the apex of a fourth turning that operates on the seculum of a cycle. And that seculum of a cycle is being facilitated by the cosmic clock or the clock of destiny. And the clock of destiny is basically showing you the dismantling of the Metatronic overlay that's connected to the doomsday clock. And that doomsday clock works in symbiotic connection to the circadian rhythm of the planet, right? When you're talking about the inception point of creation and the inception point of destruction. And then you also got to understand that it's operating from a place of a financial system, because the financial system operates on the clock of destiny through astrological alignments. So that's how they know that certain things is going to be taking place as you have the crumbling of the financial infrastructure, which is equated to the four horsemen of the apocalypse, because the black horse is a personification of the collapse of an economic system. So now when you have these green etheric frequencies coming in, right, it creates the fourth turning where you have a crisis introversion, where it creates a restoration in a form of realignment through a disruption that activates a great reset. And that great reset in itself is being facilitated by the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So this is all equated to the four basic alchemical elements, which is air, fire, water, and earth. That's equivalent to the 24,000 purification period when you're talking about the sun cycle and the moon cycle. So these four horsemen is also in connection to the movie Cabin in the Woods and A Knock at the Cabin, right? Because depending on what mythology that you follow in theological context, it says that the four horsemen are also the personification of Nephilim that don't take corporeal form. So when you watch this movie, Knock at the Cabin, these four people are basically equivalent to the four horsemen of the apocalypse, right? And they needed a sacrifice to where the three-dimensional world can have, more extension, to where the three-dimensional world has more extension on the planet, to where it extends the timeline of the plutocracy and the elites who control this Metatronic overlay. So they needed the sacrifice in order, for the world not to be in a state of resetting. So the same thing actually took place in this movie, Cabin in the Woods, because you had the puppeteers underground in these underground bunker systems, and they unlocked the key to the bottomless pit, according to Revelations according to Revelations chapter 9, verse 11, right? When you're talking about the key to the bottomless pit being opened up. So in the movie, you have the plutocracy, you have the elite underground. And they let these cherubim or these Nephilim or these draconic reptilians, these fallen angels, these cryptids, they let them on the surface of the planet to kill off all the people that lived inside of the cabin in the movie Cabin in the Woods because they needed to sacrifice so their world wouldn't end, right? So the same thing is actually taking place because it's all connected to the financial system. Because I told you that the United States corporation is $33 trillion in debt to the international banking system, right? So in order to suspend the debt, you got to kill off a lot of people. So this is also acclimated to the Deagle publication that came out that said that the great majority of humanity is going to be killed off, at least about 75% of the population by 2025, right? So whether you're talking about those aliens in Miami, all this works in conjunction because, like I said, it's not a coincidence that they build in these underground bunker systems, right? So when you unlock the key to the bottomless pit, right, that's when they sacrifice humanity. So this is also in conjunction to the movie World War Z, because the Z is an esoteric codex talking about the centripetal and the centrifugal forces conjoining together when you have the man and the woman conjoining together, the divine feminine and the divine masculine under a matriarchal order, which is the foundation of a new heaven and a new earth, Revelation chapter 21, verse 1, when you have the man who is the heaven force, and then you have the woman who is the earth force, because this is called mother nature or mother earth. When you have those two energies collaborating together, that creates a Z, right? So that World War Z in itself creates a electromagnetic force field where you have the harmonic convergence of the 144,000 as they activate the tetrahedron body, right? So now when you look at this sigil of the unification of the mind, body, and soul, that's when you have the sigil or the seal of the Most High on your forehead, to where, just like in the movie World War Z, he was able to walk past these entities without being touched, because it creates an amplification of the morphogenetic field to where you have that green etheric frequency around you, to where anything that's demonic, anything, when you talk about these Nephilim, they won't be able to touch you because you have the sigil of the Most High on your forehead, which is equated to the Star of David. And then when you look at the tetrahedron flower of life, that is the same sigil that Tahuti, who was Thoth, who was Melchizedek, he was holding that in his hand, right? Because that is basically the personification of the Christ consciousness, right? Where it creates a electrical force field surrounding the body to where nothing can infiltrate your cipher, right? So this is all connected to the oversoul, which is the Zohar body, the ether body. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this video was very, as far as the information, it was very multi-dimensional, because when you're talking about the four basic elements, the four alchemical elements, earth, water, air, and fire, you know, these energies and those four elements is basically collaborating with ether. That is what sparked the creation of everything in existence. But it's also going to be the inception point of what causes destruction on the planet. Right? Because the unity conscious aspect of everything is what creates the harmonic convergence of the 144,000. Because when you have ether, what you got to understand about ether is the personification of thought, who is Thoth or Melchizedek, right? Thought, Thoth, Melchizedek, Zahuti, Tahuti, all the same entity. Because when you have ether is actually faster than the speed of light, because light travels at 186,000 miles per square feet. And the only thing that's faster than the speed of light is thought, who is Tahuti, who is Thoth. Thought, ether. Because your thoughts leave an energetic imprint in the universe. And when you have that energetic imprint in the universe, that's when you're able to encapsulate it inside of a geometrical shape and you upload it into the neurological interface and you project it into the cosmos and the magnetosphere, and it comes back in the form of manifestation to where it takes corporeal form in the three-dimensional state, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the galvanization of the 144,000, as they activate the non-ether energy, what happens is, like I said, it manipulates the timeline. It activates the Bathari gland, right? Because in the cuneiform language, when you break down the word bara, it means a new space and time. When you're going through a different space and time by way of the multi-dimensional reality within your neurological chemistry, you're able to manipulate this three-dimensional Metatronic overlay. You can manipulate the timeline just based upon the frequency of your mind by projecting thoughts with the unity conscious aspect of those who are thinking on the same frequency, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, 2024 is a personification of the fact that you look at the sigil system of it, it's a symbology of an infinity symbol, which is the year 8. And the infinity symbol means that everything is operating from a place of restoration, meaning that energy expands and returns to itself. So meaning that this planet is going through a karmic state, it's going through a place of judgment, right? Which is why not a coincidence that on April 8th, 2024, right? On April 8th, 2024, you're going to have the solar eclipse going through 7 cities called Salem, right? And it's going to put an X over the geographical landmass of America. So that is going to be the beginning points of many different calamities, many different anomalies, many different, interstellar vortex portals opening up. There's going to be a lot of things that's going to be taking place because the planet is in a state of judgment, right? Everything's in a state of judgment. So if you're connected to the Metatronic overlay in the year 8, because the 8 is the infinity symbol, meaning that if you're still trapped inside of an artificial time analysis mechanism, right, you're going to be destroyed along with the system, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching this video. Get this video out there. This video is very important because it's going to shed a lot of light and a lot of clarification for those who do not understand what's going on, right? Something is about to happen, whether it's, esoterically or exoterically, something has to happen. Like I said, you got to get your stuff together. You know what I'm saying? Galvanize your resources, because like I said, the first rule of nature is self-preservation. So like I said, you got to, be ready for certain things that's going to be taking place in case, shit hits the fan. Stay off the airplanes, right? Make sure you have, an alternative for something that's going to be taking place. Make sure you got, a get ready bag in your car or something in case something happens, power outage or whatever, and your car shuts down. Because I told you, you can't operate no vehicle after 1975 when the grid goes down, right? Because when the grid goes down, that's when these entities is going to come to the surface of the planet, right? And start to feed off humanity in the form of a sacrifice. So like I said, it's not a coincidence you go to Dr. York's, one of his old lectures. He said, I think the lecture is called Who and What You Are. In that lecture, he was saying that back during the time of World War I or World War II, they almost cracked the earth with these atomic bombs or whatever. They're not allowed to use atomic bombs no more. So they're not hiding from war. When you talk about these millionaires, they hide underground because they know what's going to be taking place on the surface. They know it's going to be a civil war. They know there's going to be Nephilim on the surface. They know that they're going to sacrifice to extend their timeline to have dominion over the planet, as I was showing you all throughout the movies or whatever, because all this stuff works in symbiotic connection. So ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching this video. Get this video out there, subscribe to the channel. End of transmission.
10:14. We will put an end to this madness.
It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. harm is gonna get to you, and then you'll have a chariot with only one less friend. Now I had distant folks that are looking to my eyes to understand the wisdom he's given and his wealth from the skies. So thanks for this meal that I'm about to receive, and thank you for my health and all the good memories. Thanks for the courage taken on another day, when I used to not believe, but now I know about grace. Stay away from the fire, cause the flames does burn. Go with your gut feeling, when it's wrong you learn. For every one step I take, the Lord takes two. And do unto others if you want it done unto you. It's me again, God, I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. It's me again, God, I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. This a completion, the selfish proto-Grecian, Amerindian, Phoenician. I'm the last of the Mohicans, the bastard of the land, the pen, melanin, accretion. And we just trying to get back to the fact that we was kings and queens of a land before the avalanche seized it. I live on Turtle Island with the rest of the diseased. Better than the medicine for 7 different treatments. Niggas try to ride away but end up getting seasick. The sleep can feel my words like Braille, and they're awakened with the penmanship of Hindu script written in them vacant monastery honor. Honorary payments to the prototype. Tomorrow's only a day away, but nothing happens overnight. The fuck's wrong with going left when you know it's right? Biting off more than I can chew, that's an overbite. Black on black crime is like watching 2 soldiers fight when all along they was on the same page. History. It's me again, God, I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. It's me again, God, I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land.